Steve, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad.
Very good.
I wanted to start off and ask you. I mean, I know you when you were writing this
Jeff Rock.
with Jeff. I'm wondering. I mean, Philomena was kind of about, I guess, uncovering a woman's past and bringing that to life. Is there something in the process of kind of investigating or unearthing it that you find yourself being drawn to, or is it just a case of this story appealed to you on a kind of a general level, or I suppose, what was it about this that drew you to it?
Well, I suppose that there is definitely a parallel with Philomena. It's not like we sort of Jeff and I say, right, we want to tell stories of marginalized women, and that's what we do. But it just so happens that there is an attraction there. Jeff and I like real stories. We like to distill those. I think we always like it when there's a sense of some injustice somewhere along the line. Always draws us in. So that there's a parallel there, I suppose, with Philomena. But I suppose with this, yeah, the story of someone marginalized, someone who is up against the establishment in some way. We, we like to punch up, not down, and and that always kind of gets our to get the motivation to write anything. Really, you have to. It's hard to be motivated unless you have some sort of driving imperative, some moral imperative. We felt like we had that on Philomena, and felt like we had it on this. So yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned there, like you said, that you like true stories. I mean, I suppose like the simplistic kind of take would be, okay, the story is effectively written. All we have to do is just kind of pad it out with emotion and what have you.
Yeah.
But that's obviously not the case, because when you're approaching a true story, you have to see all sides of it. Would that be correct?
Yeah, well, you have to sort of, first of all, if it's a story that everybody knows, it kind of lacks, it can lack something.
Yeah.
Whereas Philomena and Philippa's stories were largely untold. Philomena's story, I mean, had been the subject of a book, but it wasn't widely known until we made the film. Philippa, again, is there as a footnote in the most other accounts of the search for Richard III, but really in a way that we feel that the full story hasn't been told, and therefore that attracts us. So there is a slight different distillment of that we feel like we have to something fresh to say, something new to say, and with this, when you're trying to, it's a puzzle. When you've got a real story, you've got like a box of bits, and it's like Lego, and you look in that box and you sort of get the bits you need, and you assemble something from that. But you leave an awful lot of bricks in the box, and you just get the ones you need to build something that you can show to people, and they understand it, and they can see it and go, oh, I know what that is. So yeah, and that puzzle is part of the pleasure you're writing is constructing that thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find, I mean, and I wasn't going to bring up Alan Partridge, and I'm not bringing up Alan Partridge, but just in the sense of the fact that, obviously the United Kingdom is a monarchy, and some people might say that the idea of a monarchy is antiquated and kind of ridiculous. And especially people digging up a car park to go looking for the dead body of a king who died however many years ago. I guess what I'm wondering is I mean, has there been, when you were writing it and as you were kind of producing it and all the rest of it, was there any kind of consideration to the fact of maybe not everyone gives a shit about a dead?
Very, very good point. Well, I thought that actually, if anyone's going to tell a story that involves a royal, Jeff and I are best placed to do it. Certainly I am, because I'm not a monarchist. And therefore, if I find it interesting, then everyone will find it interesting.
Sure.
And yes, there's definitely that aspect to it, but there's also you can have a sort of a duality in your an ambiguity in your relationship with. You can be fascinated by kings and royalty and still find the idea of a monarchy antiquated, and which I do. And you can separate that from your evaluation or respect or not of the people who occupy those created hierarchy. Mm. You know, I had huge respect for Queen Elizabeth II, but I'm not a monarchist, and those two things I'm quite comfortable sit quite comfortably with me. Like I say, yes, I mean there is. I'm interested in class. I'm interested in the divisions of class, not just social divisions. I think the idea of sort of the way people are treated. I'm interested in elevating the ordinary, and challenging any kind of status quo. I mean, I feel very comfortable in that space. I don't like to reinforce received wisdom.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, and this will be the final question. I mean, do you think, you know, that I suppose, like, there was a lot of this film that I not that I necessarily struggled with, but I mean, I was kind of like, you kind of said this yourself, is in like, it's received wisdom, the idea of like, we must venerate this, but it's been buried underneath a car park. Like, I'm just wondering, like, do you think there is a value in not dredging up the past, but kind of like honoring such a divisive idea like monarchy? Like,
like I say, it's more. I'm not that interested in Richard III, to be honest.
Yeah.
More interested in a woman, in this marginalized woman's struggle. Richard III is the Trojan horse through which I tell that story. Yeah. If the story was just about Richard III, I wouldn't particularly have been interested in telling it. It's that juxtaposition of the ordinary and the extraordinary, or what we elevate and put on a pedestal, and what we denigrate and marginalize a middle-aged woman, and marrying those two things together. That's what interests me. And also telling a story that's accessible. I don't want to tell a story that's as esoteric and too cool for school. I want lots of people to watch something, entertain them, and make them think about stuff. It's that simple, really. Yeah. And I don't just want to, part of the target of some of this story is what I call the sort of academic elite.
Yeah.
Right? And the idea of that sort of insular echo chamber of clever people impressing other clever people bores me. Yeah. What I'm interested in is challenging those structures and elevating what is regarded as ignorant or amateur. I like to do that in a way that is entertaining, uses a bit of comedy, so lots of people beyond the people who would be interested in either Richard III or academia go along, go, this is an interesting film. King's there, sort of interesting. No, I in no way. My aim was in no way to elevate the monarchy. And yes, there is a part of you. Yes, is there a part of me that thinks, yes, I say you don't have to support the monarchy to be interested in finding things about history. There are lots of historical things that you do look at it and go, that means nothing to me today. But you can learn from the past. And insofar as I'm more interested in the distortion of history rather than the monarchy in itself, the fact that we have this idea of who Richard III is, and it was a version of history that was spun by the Tudors to suit their agenda. That interests me, because if it makes people think about how events are interpreted and who's interpreting the events on their behalf and what their motivations are and what their agenda is, all that's interesting. Just because something sounds like the voice of authority doesn't mean it's necessarily legitimate or correct.
Yeah, cool. Okay, right, I'm getting the wrap up. That was really great. Thanks so much.
Great, no worries.
All the information I need to find him, well, it's all out there. But I don't think anybody's brought it all together before.
If your research is accurate, he's now right in the middle of a car park.
You tell me what that letter represents.
Just means reserved.
Of course. I have the strongest feeling this is a very important historical site.
A feeling is what you get when you sit on a bus seat that's still warm.
I will fight you all the way on this. I want to dig for Richard.
It's the body of an adult male.
Boys, your mother's just found Richard III.
And I'm here today to tell you a story about a person who was judged unfairly in life.